So we really pleased. I'll introduce myself. I'm Jeremy Henges. I'm the Executive Director of Michigan Center for Adult College Success, fairly new organization helping out in the post-secondary arena. Just real quick, we were funded and created by the legislature in an initiative of Talent First last year. So we're just getting up and running this year with the goal of supporting our colleges and universities across the state of Michigan to boost adult enrollment and completion. And as part of that, I'm really excited to be part of the team to launch the Michigan Regional Adult Initiative for Skills and Education Design Lab. That mouthful thankfully shrinks down nicely to MyRaise Design Lab. And we've got some amazing partners on the call today to help with this work. The center is part of the Talent First team, so they'll be obviously helping and participating, but we've got a great partnership with Education Strategy Group. Christine and some of her team from ESG is on the call today as well. Sova Solutions is going to be a partner in this work as well to help out through this design and planning program. And we're also going to be working with College App to provide some information and data that should be useful and helpful to all of you. So with that, Christine, if you want to kind of move on to the next slide, the agenda for today, we'll kind of highlight some of the key partners and their roles, talk a little bit about why we're focused on adults, go over the goal of the MyRaise Design Lab, also touch on the process for the design lab, the timeline, eligibility, and how to participate. And then we'll have opportunity for Q&A at the end as well, with information on how to reach out if you think of questions, of course, after the webinar and go, oh my gosh, I wish I would have asked this. We'll have an opportunity on how you can connect with us to get those answers. So that's the plan for the day. And with that, we'll kind of jump in a little bit on the design lab key partners. If you've got a burning question relevant to something specific on the slide, go ahead and raise your hand at that point too. We'll try and catch you on the topic. MyRaise Design Lab, our key partners, the Center for Adult College Success is helping spearhead this effort. Very thankful for our partnership with Education Strategy Group, who's was looking to do some very similar stuff before we even got this started. They've been wonderful partners to work with. They're going to be helping provide some of the technical assistance, working on some of the LMI data, helping us with the coaching and project management as well. Sova Solutions, Allison is on from Sova today. They'll be helping us with the design process and some of the design sprints that we'll be going through in the planning work. College App is, we're going to be tapping them to do some data mining and modeling work to provide institutions that participate some information about prospective adult learners. My Talent First team is going to be supporting us with the labor market information as well. We'll be providing institutions that participate in the process, and also want to kind of elevate a landscape analysis that the center just recently published, that the Talent First team did a lot of work on, that highlights some of the challenges and best practices and promising strategies that we're hoping to see some really cool work around through this design lab to kind of boost our adult completion rates. And then last but certainly not least, want to give a huge thank you to both the state of Michigan for their support and funding the center and the work that we're doing, as well as the Kresge Foundation that is providing some financial support for this work as well with our partners at ESG. All right, so why adults? Christine, I think you can take it away.
Yeah, sure. Wanted to share a little bit more, and I suspect that many of you all are will be preaching to the choir with this, but did want to just kind of share a little about the why we wanted to focus on adult learners and how we define adult learners. One of the things you'll see here is that the definition that we have listed is very closely aligned with the new guidelines in Michigan Reconnect. And we will, like I said, share this PowerPoint as well. So all of these are hyperlinks in case you want to dig in on something. But individuals with a high school diploma or an equivalency and are 1 year or removed from or more removed from high school. So that's the definition, at least from a big picture perspective. When it comes to actually pulling data from your respective institutions, a lot of times we use 25 and older as a proxy for adult learners, recognizing that adult learners are very diverse in terms of the categories. They can be in somebody who has finished high school and is only a year out and may just have independent status. That's obviously not somebody 25 or older, but it's a lot harder to capture those individuals when you pull data. So that's one of the reasons why we have both elements listed here. Again, kind of the why here, 49.5% of Michigan adults lack some sort of post-secondary credential. And we know that this is creates a challenge both from an economic mobility standpoint, from how well communities are thriving, but also from a workforce perspective. We need to make sure that the workforce has the skilled talent that they need. And so this is why we have a tremendous opportunity now to address this very important population. We know that post-secondary credentials drive economic mobility. They open the door to higher paying jobs. And that allows more Michiganders to build better lives for themselves and their families. And so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to emphasize the importance of adult learners and really focus in again on this population. The other reason, and this is kind of a fiscal imperative for institutions, post-secondary institutions, is that the high school graduating class is shrinking significantly. Many of you by now have heard of the enrollment cliff. That means there are significantly fewer graduating high school students now, and that cliff is going to drop very precipitously in 2025. So that's just based on birth rates and projections based on that. So we need to address the populations that we can attract and recruit, because the shrinking pool of high school more traditional learners, as is sometimes referred, is just it's a thing that we have to address. So those are kind of some of the big picture reasons. We'll talk a little bit more about adult learners over the course of our work together, but did want to kind of give you a high level view on that. And before I kick it back over to Jeremy.
Right. So the goal of our MyRaise Design Lab is to work with our post-secondary institutions to really help them develop a proposal for funding opportunities down the line. So the good news in the ecosystem is there's a lot of dollars being put on the table to help institutions access and implement student success opportunities. But one of the things we heard early on from our creation is there's a need for supports to help design and plan around some meaningful proposals. So our goal here is to help the institutions through this process prepare to apply for those funding opportunities, whether it's grants that the center will be able to provide later. So in the spring, the center is going to be offering up an opportunity to apply for innovation investment awards. Those will be large dollar awards for implementation, up to $1 million per institution or application. We were pleased to be part of a team of folks that advocated successfully to get $26 million allocated in the state budget for student success grants that will be administered by the Office of 60 by 30. And while we don't exactly know what that's going to look like and how those are going to be distributed, we've been working in communication closely with our friends in the Office of 60 by 30 on the work we're doing here to make sure that we've got some really great proposals for funding. And there's a lot of foundations and others that are supporting this work out in the ecosystem as well. And so this is really an opportunity for us to bring some technical assistance, some design and planning experts to the table, bring some data to help inform that design and planning work to you, and really should be viewed as an opportunity to expand kind of the institution's capacity to do that design and planning work for these upcoming grant opportunities. So that's kind of our goal with this. And why we're doing it, again, it's that North Star of the state's 60 by 30 goal, and really focusing in on increasing the number of adults obtaining those post-secondary credentials. maximizing the impact of those state grants and other funding opportunities. And I just want to kind of close on, one of the leading philosophies of the center is, talent is everywhere, that opportunity is not. So we're really taking a look at this of how do we get this opportunity to more adults to get those post-secondary credentials that they need to thrive and boost their quality of life, to meet the employer needs right now on talent. We just did a presentation Tuesday, showing that for every job opening, there's less than one applicant with the skill set in West Michigan. And I think you'll see that is fairly common in other areas across the state. So there's a tremendous need right now for skilled talent as quickly as possible. And I think our adult population is a ripe population to get them skilled up quicker. It's certainly going to be easier than trying to figure out how we bring more babies into the state and get them through the K-12 system. So those are some of our goals and the why behind what we're doing at the Design Lab. Okay. Then on process, Allison, did you want to touch on some of this? Or?
Sure, I can. Do you want me to jump in here, Christine, or do you want to kick it off? All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. So there are going to be some pieces that are going to be provided here to you, to successful applicants to help put together really strong, high quality grant proposals, again, for any of the many opportunities coming in the state of Michigan. And so there'll be a self-assessment that will be a light process, but one that will allow you to reflect as a core team, to think about the people that you need to have involved in the work. A labor market supply demand analysis will also be provided as part of the sort of technical assistance and support. Prospective learner data mining will be provided, and then there will be a regular cadence of engagement to provide guidance, feedback, support. We're calling these design sprints for proposals, but the most important thing to know about that is that the process is going to be designed to meet the realities and needs of applicants. So meet you where you are rather than foisting some complicated process on you. We're here to support and to provide the kind of guidance, feedback, coaching. Sometimes we think about some of the requests we get in this type of work as sort of concierge work. Like, can you help us find the best in breed example of X, or how many states and what kinds of institutions are working on Y, that sort of thing. Or, when we look at our data, this is what we think we're seeing, but, how are others making sense of the same kind of data, right? So the cadence of engagement is going to be flexibly designed. It's going to meet you where you are, and it's going to be really focused on helping prepare applicants to create the strongest possible proposals for real systemic, important, scalable change and reform and refinement and improvement work in your student success efforts related to adult learners. So happy to answer questions about that as we get rolling, but the bottom line is you'll get tools and you'll get supports, and it's going to be designed to meet you where you are.
So as you're hopefully at this point in time, we've sparked your interest and have only continued to spark that interest. So we want to talk a little bit about what that potential timeline might look like for this project. And so we've sent out kind of the general invitation, and our goal is to have those invitations returned to us by October 31st, 2023. So that's the deadline for kind of this first phase of the Design Lab. We'll take a look at those applications and then let institutions know which ones have been selected on November 6th. And then kind of after that, we'll look to have a virtual kickoff on November 14th around noon Eastern. Outside of that, there's a couple of other series of steps that would be going on. And so this just kind of gives you the big picture overview of how that process will flow. Part of it is doing an institutional self-assessment to kind of see where your institution's at, where those needs are. As Allison mentioned, we want to meet you where you're at. So it's important to understand what your starting point is so that we can identify what kind of TA needs are needed and so forth. We also have a couple of regularly scheduled meetings that we're looking to hold, where we'll bring everybody together and take a deeper look at some of that design process. And so a couple of them are listed here, including a virtual convening on December 11th, an in-person convening in January, and then a virtual convening in mid-February. All of this is building up to those innovation investment awards, and that RFP is planning to be released sometime in March of 2024. We will host an in-person convening in between that time, between when that's released and when that deadline is going to be, and that is going to be sometime in mid-March. Those innovation investment award proposals due sometime in May, and more information will be forthcoming. And then once that's done, we will still be offering some continued institutional support on those plans that have been designed and put forward. So that's the rough timeline, and we'll answer any questions kind of as we lead towards the end of the webinar.
All right, so on eligibility and how to participate, eligibility is on this particular opportunity for public universities, public and tribal community colleges. For our independent colleges and universities, we unfortunately do have some restrictions, but if you partner with one of the public institutions, and I know of at least one partnership potential on this call today, you can participate in the program. To participate, you simply need to complete our invitation that's on the website. It's fairly short. This is really meant to be more, as I explain it, more like an intake form, getting to know you. This is not a, intense process going through a lot of scoring. Our goal here is to support you as an institution to get the proposals ready for, grant awards that will have that intensive scoring scrutiny. So we just need to know a little bit about the organization. We definitely want to have that commitment of support from the organization, that letter of organizational support, whether that's from the president of the institution or somebody on that executive leadership team, demonstrating that level of commitment to the process, as well as we've got, a short questionnaire asking a little bit of information about the need, what you know about your adult learners on a high level, and what are the, key, members of the team that are going to be participating from your institution, and then assurances that you believe you'll be able to meet the requirements of the process for the convenings and the time that we're asking for to move through this design process. So overall, this is like 5 pages tops, I think, is what we kind of mapped it out to be. So this is meant to be a very easy intake form. I know it's a short turnaround time, but we're not asking for a whole lot of work here in advance, just asking for really identifying who your team leads are, a little bit about your needs and your adult learner population, what you think you want to do, and then those assurances that you're committed to the process. So that's really what we're looking for here. And then for questions, we'll open up the floor here for questions as well. If you can raise your hand or put it in the chat, we'll do our best to get to them in the order that they come in. As I said in the outset, if you don't have a question right away, but you think of something like 2 minutes after you hang up from the Zoom and go, shoot, I really wish I would have asked this, go ahead and reach out to us at the email that's on your screen. It's thecenter@talentfirst.net. And we will make sure that we connect you with the best part of our team to answer those questions. So from that, we'll open up the floor to questions. I see one in chat. Are international students considered within the potential of the population? Yes, I would say international students are. Our goal is adult learners, and it's that broad definition of adult learners. I would hope that it looks beyond just international students. Would be, I think, my response to that. I don't know if Christine or Allison, you've got additional thoughts. I think they could be part of the pot, but if you're focusing specifically on just international students, I'd ask that you look a little broader to look at our domestic students as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anything that you're looking at around your adult learner populations, you know, as you're thinking about even special populations should have a the project should have a significant impact on your ability to serve all adult learners effectively, regardless of specific populations, such as international students.
Mhm.
Jeremy,
As inclusive as possible.
are participants going to be selected based on representing different regions of the state, or is it more just on the quality of the program or proposal?
Our hope, and I probably should have clarified this in the beginning, our hope is to take pretty much anybody that applies and move them through the process, as long as they're focused on that adult learner population and the completion rates. So our main focus is on things to help boost completion rates for adult learners. Again, that definition is relatively broad. Anybody beyond a year from high school with a high school diploma or equivalency. Because we know our Michigan landscape is a little convoluted in that regard, and we just expanded Reconnect to 21 plus. So as long as it's within that bucket and the prime focus is those adult learners, we're good. If it can help some traditional students as well, that's fine. But it's got to have a prime focus on that adult learner.
I would say that we are also to that and also encouraging institutions within a region to collaborate with one another. And I think, as Jeremy mentioned, we've already heard of a couple that are interested in doing that. It's not a requirement, but it's certainly encouraged.
Thank you.
There's a question in the chat here, which Christine began to answer, actually, with the answer to the last question about private STEM institution partnering with community college. Would you be eligible? Yes, the community college would need to be the lead on the project. And the question around what are some resources to make connections to companies and organizations who need workforce from the adult learner demographic. Jeremy, do you want to speak a little to that, or Christine, on the workforce, on sort of the data mining that's going to go into this that will be part of the...
Yeah, I know we're going to be doing, Christine, you can jump in too, we're going to be doing some pulling together some LMI data, labor market information data. And we can certainly, through this process, highlight where some of the demand is going to be. Happy to work with the institutions if they need to. Again, this is kind of meet you where you are. Institutions are going to be at different levels. It's through this process, you identify, hey, we need help identifying employers to make those connections. That can be part of the learning process. Other folks may already be coming in with some, good employer connections in organizations to make those touch points. So it's going to be a little bit different depending on what you're walking in with. But we are at least going to provide the basic, high level data on the labor market information kind of in the region of where folks are geographically located, at least. And we'll have statewide as well. Anything you want to add to that, Christine?
No, I think you captured it pretty well. We aren't expecting you to come to this to submit your invitation having already identified those. If you have them, great, but it's not a requirement.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a question early on the chat. I don't want to make sure we miss. From Caleb. Will self-evaluations be shared broadly with other institutions, or are they just for the institution doing the self-evaluation? So
it's a good question. Just to you.
Question.
Your information is just for you. I think ESG and SOVA are going to be interested in elevating themes that cut across, but there's not going to be any attribution to any given institution. Your self-assessment is for you to help your team be on the same page and to think about, we are really interested in seeing where there are cross-cutting themes, but we're most interested in protecting your space to do your work. Yeah, Tom.
Yes. Hi, this is Tommy again from Cleary. Cleary's private, not public university. We do a lot with adult learners, lots of innovations. So I was just handed this yesterday, so I'm realizing that this is, not funding, but support services to prepare us for funding in the future. When you say partner with a community college or what does partnership mean? When you say they got to be the lead, how does that work exactly?
So it's hopefully coming together to do something in a joint manner in that regard for the partnerships. So I know we've got, I don't want to call anybody out specifically, but I know that there's a group on an institution on the call today that is working and hoping to do a partnership on a program in conjunction with a public community college that would be going through this, hoping to go through this process. I know
Jeremy, I also have some examples of other kinds of partnerships.
Sure.
You know, and I mean, and
Go
if
for
anybody
it.
wants to jump in from an institution and talk about what you're thinking about, by all means. But we often see partnerships between community colleges and independent universities focused on smoothing transfer pathways, for example, for students. For adult students, helping to create those workforce pathways that begin at community colleges and, you know, may stack toward and beyond a baccalaureate degree in, you know, particularly high demand workforce areas, or in general, trying to create the conditions for adult learners, since an overwhelming majority of community college students are baccalaureate seeking. And we know that baccalaureate degrees are an important piece of the opportunity puzzle, sort of finding ways to smooth those transitions. We also know that independent institutions in Michigan are responsible, I believe, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but for almost or more than half of baccalaureate degrees produced for learners about, who are older than 44. So when it comes to adult learners and independent institutions in the state, there are lots of opportunities around things like transfer alignment. And so partnerships could take lots of different forms around that.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I'd add to that is, you know, while this particular program's, you know, limited to that partnership and what we would hope to see there.
Oh, great. I'll meet you up front.
Oh, John, you're
Yep.
so whoever's got host, we got to mute John. Okay, got it. There you go.
Sorry, Tom. What I was going to say is, you know, what we're looking for in this particular opportunity is is a partnership on this. So if an independent institution is applying with a public institution, we would be looking at the design teams to be working around a common goal, whether it is that credit alignment, transferability of credits, questions. That's what we'd be looking for in this process. The center, I'll just step back from a moment from this particular program. The center is created to support all institutions. We unfortunately have some limitations based on the politics of the situation and our funding sources on direct applications here. But I do look forward to working with, and a few folks on this conversation know, I see Holly on my screen. We just talked about it this morning. You know, opportunities to work with our independents specifically because of the significant amount of adult populations that you work on. So while you may not have if you're looking to do something just on your own, this may not be the best opportunity for you, but happy to continue that conversation offline and other opportunities we may be able to support you on.
And I see Caleb's question here as well. Also, everyone, I put the link into to the landscape scan from the into the chat as well. It may be helpful for you to take a look at that as you're thinking about your proposals here. So the question from Caleb: are non-credit micro-credentials, digital badges, learning experiences eligible for funding as part of the grant application, or should these applications focus on for-credit options only? Jeremy, what do you think?
Well, for the design process, you can do anything. For our Innovation Investment Awards, these are also all great things, but we'd love to see them actually get credit. So to say that they're, if you're going for the Innovation Investment Awards in the spring, I would heavily encourage you to be thinking through this design process about how do we take micro-credentials, digital badges, and infuse them into a credit-bearing program.
Yep.
Those are, some of the things that we're really hoping to see through this process and fund later on. But certainly when you're talking about adult learner populations, having those interim steps of success to kind of boost their persistence by having those micro-credentials and digital badges are incredibly helpful. So I'm not trying to diminish those at all. Those are great. and happily work on it. And hopefully through this process, we can figure out what you might want to do here and turn them into some credit bearing programs as we go.
Yep. And Jamie, I see your note from Jackson, and that is very much, I think y'all are working with CBEN and others, right, on doing that work. That's fantastic. And so this is very much, these questions about recognition of learning and how that recognition is transcribed, right, or made portable for learners is important work, and I think something that's increasingly a focus for adult learner student success work in many states.
So Lori,
We've got
see
two questions on the awards themselves, the innovation awards. One is, are they 1 year, 2 year, or more? And the other question was about the approximate amount of those awards.
All right, I will touch on those. We'll have more information coming out too. So the Innovation Investment Awards are a multi-year grant, but I will note that they are federally funded, which comes with an obligation spending deadline 2 years before the money actually has to be expended. So when we do the awards, hopefully in May, our Innovation Investment Awards, you'll have until the end of 2026 or till September of 2026 to spend that money, but you have to know how you're going to spend it by September of 2024. And we'll be working with institutions on how to meet those obligation deadlines. It's incredibly frustrating on where I sit as well. And I'm sure many of your institutions are dealing with the SFRF dollars and how to meet those obligation deadlines. But that's how the Innovation Investment Awards are unfortunately funded. So we have to follow those federal rules. The pot of money total will be right around $5 million from the Innovation Investment Awards. So depending on the size of the applications that come in, we'll do as many awards as we can with that roughly $5 million, a little over. We'll spend as much of it as we can to get it out the door for grants. The award cap is $1 million per collaboration or institution that applies. But we'll see what comes in, what the dollar amounts are. Again, our hope also, though, is through this process that the work that you'll be doing, we're having those conversations with Office by 60 of 60 by 30, will support applications that will be going into the pots of money that they will have available for student success. And they're still kind of working through some of their details because that is even newer on the scene than ours. So
also worth noting that the design sprint work that you're doing could also prepare you for like Department of Ed grants and some other opportunities as well. So while certainly we want you to apply for the state specific ones, it's also potential to see some federal grants as well. So just keeping that open as well.
Link to the RFP, we can put that
and then
in the chat.
Casey has a question about the RFP for the Innovation Awards, which is not yet available. So that's we haven't shared the link for that yet.
No, we're still working on design. My hope is to have that available shortly after. I know in our timeline, I think we said March, but my hope is to actually have it available much earlier, like in February. So folks can have plenty of time to prepare for what we're looking at there. So.
And yes, we'll share the recording. It'll be posted on the MCACS website. It just gives a little bit of time to convert it to YouTube format, and then we'll share it. So either later today or first thing tomorrow morning.
Any other questions or questions that we've missed? Looks like we've covered everything everybody has for now.
There's no greater gift than the gift of time back.
Exactly. All right, well, again, I'll just recap. If you, oh, I see one more. Hold on. Cassie, you got one coming?
If it is a partnership between independent institution or private institution and a community college, then yes, the community college needs to be the PI or the lead on it. If it is a partnership between a public community college and a public university, either can be the lead.
University, public university can be the lead too. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And a public university can be the lead with an independent institution. But when it's two publics, anybody can be the lead, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we are good, if you think of anything else, again, just as a reminder, you know, you can go ahead and email us at the center at talentfirst.net. I'll put it in the chat as well. So go ahead and feel free to ask, you know, like I said, if you hang up and remember, oh, shoot, I had one more question I should have thought about. I just didn't think about it until after I hit the end call button. Email us at that. We'll get it in the right hands, whether it's Allison and the SOBA team, Christine, Disraeli, and the ESG crew, myself. We'll make sure we get you connected with the right expert to answer the questions that you may have. And feel free to reach out. Like I said, this is, you know, we want to be an iterative and supportive process as we go through this. So as you have questions, do not hesitate to ask. Again, this application is not meant to be, or the invitation is not meant to be a tough scoring rubric on it. So do not hesitate. You know, if you're working on this, say, hey, I've got a question about this, reach out. We will get an answer back to you. You know, our goal is to accept everybody that, as long as you're within the parameters of an eligible institution or partnership, and you're serving adult learners and trying to figure out how to increase their completion rates, we're going to take you in. So that's our goal, and help do that design work. So with that, final call. Looks like we're good. I'm seeing no hand raises. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time. You get 20 minutes back, and look forward to hopefully working with many, if not all of you, going forward. Thank you.